Magazine is sitting with Carl McClatchie at his home club, the Serengeti Golf and Wildlife Estate. Carl, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Good, thanks yourself. Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate this opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure, Carl. Let's start off with how did you get involved in golf?
Well, my dad used to play golf and kind of introduced me to golf ever since I was really small. But given a golf club, all the pictures that I can remember, I had a golf club in my hand, so that's basically how I got involved. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your role models. Who do you look up to in the sport of golf?
I think being a South African, guys like Gary Player come to mind. I really enjoy watching Tiger. I think he's one of my biggest role models, just the way he's so competitive and the way he always strives to win, which is something I always want to do. So yeah, probably him, those two guys.
Carl, you're still an amateur golfer, but you are taking the sport pretty seriously. Let's talk about your training program. What does your training program entail?
Here at Serengeti, I've got my team, I've got a coach, which I see once or twice a week. I've got a biokineticist in the gym, so I work out with him and have programs to do while I'm here and away on trips. And I've got a physio here, so whenever kind of have rehab and stuff with them, and just pretty much practice every day when I'm not playing, and when I'm playing, just stick to the same routines every week. And yeah, working really hard here in the gym, especially this year. But yeah, that's kind of my routine.
Carl, you won your first amateur competition last year. What is the amateur scene like in South Africa, and how does it help you to develop your game?
Well, last year the amateur scene was really good. We got top class players who play around the world and compete around the world. So it's really good to kind of hone your skills here. It stands you in good stead for overseas golf because the guys here are able to compete overseas. So it's a lot easier when you go overseas to play against those guys because the pressure here is almost as great as when you go over there. So yeah.
Carl, you represented South Africa at the Youth Olympic Games in 2014. You've played in Argentina and you've played against France in South Africa. What are your thoughts on how South African amateur golfers fare against their international opponents?
I think we do pretty well. Over the years it's kind of gone up and down, but I think it's starting to rise again now with some great golfers coming through, kind of my year and a little bit younger than me, a little bit older than me, so I think it's going to get a lot better. I think we're starting to understand that we're as good as everybody else around the world, so yeah, I think we are good enough to compete overseas, and guys have done it before, they've gone overseas, they've won overseas. We've got great pros that are youngsters, 21, 22, who compete overseas, so I think South African golf is really good in general, amateur-wise. So, yeah.
What would you say is the greatest lesson you have learned from playing against international opposition?
I think the greatest lesson I've learned, and I've learned it the hard way, is to get there and know that you're as good as the guys around you and that you can compete with the guys around you. That's the main thing, to have confidence when you go overseas and you know that you can compete against them, and they're just people. They're not these like God-like creatures around you. You're good enough, and you're good enough to compete around them. Yeah.
What moment in your golfing career so far stands out for you the most?
I think it probably happened when I was 16. We travelled to Italy, and throughout my career, I've always known that at some stage you got to know when you can do something. And I went overseas and competed and finished third in the under-16 championship in Italy. So that was kind of my stepping stone. I think that kind of put me on the right track going forward and got me where I am today.
Carl, what are your golfing aspirations? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, obviously I want to turn pro in the next couple of years, and I know it's said a lot, but I want to be one of the best golfers in the world one day. That is my goal. That's why I work so hard. That's what I do where I do. I want to be the best, so yeah, that's what I want.
Have you got aspirations to don the green Masters blazer?
Definitely, I think that's one of every golfer's dreams and goals, but really that is the pinnacle. I would really like to do that one day. All the hard work and hopefully, yeah.
Carl, as we end off, although you're still relatively young in your career, you will still be a role model and an inspiration yourself to the next generation of young golfers. If you had a special message for them, what would you say?
I would just say You got to believe in yourself. Most importantly, you got to believe that you can do it before anybody else can believe it. Because there's people around you that are going to say that they believe in you, but if you don't believe it, then that's not good enough. And work hard. If you work hard, anything's possible.
Kyle, Gamer Magazine would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much for spending some time with us as we learn more about you and your golfing aspirations. So thank you.
Thank you very much.